Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil. Today we've got a slightly different show for you all, where we're going to be focusing on the topic question, have INEOS destroyed Manchester United? It's going to be a type of fan debate type show where I'm going to encourage you to get your comments in, get your thoughts in, and let's have one big conversation about this topic. This idea came to me obviously fresh off the back of INEOS announcing another 200 further staff redundancies at Manchester United. This is, of course, on top of the 250 people who lost their jobs last year. So how we're going to start the show off is by... There's this really interesting article that I found which shows all of the things that, all the cuts that INEOS have made since taking over, was it a year ago, taking over the sporting side? So we're going to go through that. I'm also going to try and spin it on the other way. So I'm going to try and look at it from INEOS's perspective. I'm going to try and give a level playing field to both why people think they've destroyed the club and effectively why INEOS think they're doing what they're doing. So we're going to go through all of the things where INEOS have penny pinched, if you like, they've made cuts, whatever you want to call it. So we'll start off there. But obviously throughout the show, I want you to get involved in the comment section. This is supposed to be a fan debate type show. So the idea behind it is to try and gauge and document how the fan base are feeling at this particular moment in Manchester United's history. And it could be a really good way of looking back in the future as almost a type of archive, where we can look back at this moment and we can say either that was good or that was bad, and we can kind of use it as a bit of a reference point. So do make sure you get involved throughout the video. Let me know your thoughts on the current position. You might agree with some things I say, you might disagree. That's the whole point of having a community like this. So let's start off with where INEOS are currently trying to save money. So we'll go through the whole list and I'll tell you from this article I found roughly how much money will be saved from each of these individual cost-saving measures. Right, so we'll start with the first one, which is canteen food scrapped. So for anybody who doesn't know what this means, going forward, apparently at Carrington and Old Trafford, there won't be any food. There's no canteen. It will just be food for the men's first team. So the rest of the staff will not be getting any food. Some people think this is bad. Some people think this is good. To give you a bit of an example, currently in the UK, 95% of employers don't provide free school lunches, work lunches, whatever you want to call it. So this isn't particularly non-normal, when 95% of people who work in the UK don't get their lunch for free anyway. But in the footballing world, this is pretty much unheard of. Most football clubs will provide lunch for their staff, and this isn't people who, I don't know, like the cleaners and stuff. This is like the coaches, the analysts, the medical department. It's the people who are working with the players every day. This apparently will save Manchester United over £1 million per season. Okay, so £1 million in the bank. The next one we've got here is in relation to the stewards who work at Old Trafford. So there used to be a bonus where if you worked over 10 games in a season, you would get £100 as kind of like an end of year Christmas bonus. That's been scrapped. That will save around £4,000 a year. So it's literally nothing. I think that one is laughable. I think £4,000 a year saving to give a steward who's probably on minimum wage a bonus at the end of the year. There's no argument against that one. I think that's just ridiculous, to be honest. So we'll move swiftly on from that one. Again, as I said, follow on with me throughout. Let me know your thoughts on each of these things as we go through. The next one is, again, about the stewards. So what Manchester United have done is they have made, or INEOS have done, sorry, they've made all of the stewards redundant who work for the club. So you've got some stewards who've worked at Old Trafford for 40, 50 years. They're Manchester United fans and they've worked there for as long as they've been alive almost, right? Now, what INEOS have done is they've just sacked all of them and they've changed it to an agency. So the people who were doing the security and the steward work at Manchester United at Old Trafford now are not the same people. It's an external company which has no link to Manchester United. And the reason they've done this is because these agencies aren't technically their employers. They're not employed by INEOS. Does that make sense? So it's all to do with employment law here in the UK. So instead of having staff who you have to pay holiday pay, sick pay, pensions, et cetera, you have an agency who you'll just pay a fee to come in and do the stewarding. So again, it's another way of saving money because it means that none of the people who are working at Old Trafford are actually your staff. They're They belong to an agency, if that makes sense. So, yeah. I don't know. I can see the pros and cons to that. I think by getting rid of people who've been there for 30, 40 years, you are taking away part of the football club. You know, you're getting rid of people who know about Old Trafford and replacing them for people who are just, well, they're just like temporary agency staff. You know, they have no love for the club at all. They have no attachment to the club. It's just a job for them. We've seen loads of videos of them throwing out people who've been standing up, which is mental, like absolutely mental. So yeah, I think that one's obviously a bad thing. The next one we've got is kind of the big one. So they removed 250 jobs last summer, which is obviously a huge amount of jobs, right? People from the local area, people who have been working at the club for a long time. And this apparently will save Manchester United. Now, this caught me by surprise this morning. So 250 jobs removed last summer. This will save apparently 40 to 45 million pounds per year in wages, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. That's a lot of money. But again, these are all local people who relied on this income. But if you want to look at it on the flip side, when you fire someone, when you make someone redundant, you usually have to pay them off. So these 250 people who lost their jobs will have probably received anywhere from 6 to 12 months worth of pay to leave. So obviously it's sad. Obviously it's really horrible for these people. But it's not like they walked in on Monday and were told you're sacked and then were left to fend for themselves. Like, they would have received a big payout to leave. That still doesn't make it okay, but just to give a kind of fair argument on both sides. So 40 to 45 million pounds worth of money saved there, which is a hell of a lot of money. And then off the back of that, hence why we're doing the video today, Manchester United announced yesterday, or INEOS announced yesterday, that another 200 jobs will be cut. So 250 last year, 200 this year, which again is a massive amount of jobs, isn't it? That's 450 jobs in the last 12 months. In relation to finances from this, they've estimated that would save another 25 to 30 million pounds per season. So if you look at those two bits alone, the 250 jobs last year and 200 jobs this year, it's anywhere from 65 to 70 million pounds worth of money saved per season, which is, let's be honest, that's a crazy amount of money, 70 million in a year. But again, that's people who were living in the local area, people who were contributing to the local economy, you know, and what will those people now do for jobs? Will they move? They might move to another city. They might leave that area. That might be skilled people who are earning good money might say, okay, if I'm losing my job here, I'm going to move to another city. So for Manchester as a whole, it's bad, isn't it? Because it's locals who are losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods, maybe can't afford their mortgages anymore, etc., etc. And they might say, oh, I've got to move somewhere else. I can't afford this. Obviously, this is just hypothetical, but that's usually what happens. When people lose their jobs, they reconsider their lives. They might say, oh, I'm going to have to move somewhere else. I'm going to have to change careers. I'm going to move to a different country. So you are taking people who, are very experienced in working at football clubs away from Manchester. So those two things, I think, are kind of the big talking points, aren't they? So 250 jobs last year, 200 jobs this year. As I said, around 65 to 70 million pounds estimated in wages per season, which is really, really mad. Just to say as well, guys, I'd love to know what you think about this video. Do you like these types of topics where it's more of like a factual type thing? Let me know. Very, very interested to see what you guys will think about this one. I've never done a video like this before, so I hope you do enjoy it. But moving on from there, the next one we've got for you is on cancelling the £40,000 donation to the former Manchester United's Player Association charity. I have nothing to argue for that one. There's no argument against doing this. I think it was a terrible decision. These are people who used to play for Manchester United. The money was used to fund funerals for ex-Manchester United players if they couldn't afford their own funerals. So there's no argument for that. Next up, you've got a Christmas party was cancelled. That apparently saved £250,000. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, a Christmas party, £250,000. I think it's a difficult one because if they were cancelling Christmas parties just after we'd won the Champions League and the Premier League, then I think you'd be like, what the hell are they doing? But last season was our worst season in Premier League history, I believe. And this season is now going to be our next worst season in Premier League history. So I somewhat do agree that you shouldn't reward failure with nice things like Christmas parties. But at the same time, if that then, if these people are so reliant on these Christmas parties and that's what makes them happy, then it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because does that mean they're not going to be as motivated anymore? Does that mean they're going to start not putting in as much effort? I mean, you could argue that if that's the case, then maybe they're not the right people to work at Manchester United. I mean, I think everyone's opinion on this one will be different. Some people love Christmas, and some people will say it's a disgrace. How could they do this? Other people will be a bit like, I don't really care about Christmas. It doesn't mean anything to me. £250,000 on a Christmas party is ridiculous. I'm probably in that camp. I think, it's just not that important for me, Christmas parties. When put it this way, right? That Christmas party, £250,000, that could be probably 8 or 9 people's yearly salary. 8 or 9 people who've lost their jobs as part of this big cut. I think the average salary in the UK is about, let me double check, average salary UK. So the average salary in the UK is £37,000. Obviously, that's across the whole of the UK. Let's have a look if we can see average salary Manchester. So the average salary in Manchester is about 30,000 a year. That's what I thought it would be. Okay, so the reason I'm working this out is, we get rid of this Christmas party. Let's see how many people's jobs we can save by getting rid of the Christmas party. So 8 people. This Christmas party that they got rid of is the same equivalent of 8 people's yearly salary at Manchester United. So when you look at it like that, if I said to you, you could either sack another people or keep the Christmas party, I think most people watching this video would say keep the 8 people. So I don't have a problem with this one. I just think, The next up is, again, about Christmas. It's that apparently they've replaced Christmas bonuses with a £40 M&S voucher. Again, that doesn't bother me. We finished 8th last season. We had our worst season in Premier League history. We are hemorrhaging money. And again, that's not necessarily on these normal people. That's obviously on the Glazers. But still, I think Christmas bonuses, things like this, they're not essential. If anything, the staff should be rewarded upon success, not on failure. So I'm not bothered about them getting £40 M&S voucher. That doesn't really matter to me. I'd rather people keep their jobs. I'd rather these charities get the money that they deserve. I'd rather the Manchester United's not supporters trust, the Manchester United Foundation gets the money. Like, I would much rather money goes into that than on like a relatively pointless Christmas party. But that's just my opinion. That's the whole point of this video, is that you can have your say on all of these things. These are all of the things that INEOS have done in the last 12 months. So it's a really good way of documenting what's happened. I will do like a really quick summary at the end as well. The next one is in relation to coach travel to games. So they used to previously, if members of staff, so I don't know, people who work in ticketing, people who work in hospitality at Old Trafford wanted to go to the games, they could get free coach travel. They've now scrapped that and they're making people pay £20 per person. I mean, that would have saved apparently £18,000 a season. I mean, it seems pretty petty, but the more I look at all of these things, right, there is an ongoing theme here that INEOS and Jim Ratcliffe have clearly come into Manchester United and they think that there's an over-bloated workforce and they're not happy with the work that the people are putting out. Because a lot of these things are targeting those people. And they've obviously come in and been like, we're not happy. Why are we paying for their coach travel? They're not performing. Why are we giving them Christmas bonuses? Why are we giving them Christmas parties? There's obviously a lot of people at Old Trafford, at Manchester United who do an amazing job, I'm sure. But there must also be a lot of people who have been there a long time and I think probably don't do as much as probably what they're being paid for. That's what I've heard from multiple people that, they've come in INEOS and they've been like, what the hell is going on here? So I'm not massively bothered about that. They're getting free tickets to go to games. If, having to pay £20 to get a coach from Manchester to London isn't like, that's a pretty good deal. It's not the end of the world, I don't think. But anyway, what else have we got? So they've also cut the scouting department. I mean, I don't know how much by. That's the next thing I had. The scouting department. I mean, our scouting department's been awful for the last 10 years, so I don't think there's any issue there, to be honest. I would rather them get rid of the whole scouting department and employ one competent scout who actually knows what they're doing, because we supposedly have this huge scouting department, one of the biggest in Europe. And if you look at our transfers over the last decade, I would say that the only one that's probably been a success, hands down, is maybe Bruno Fernandes, realistically. Like a proper success. It's too early to tell with people like Manuel Ugarte and Lenny Yoro and De Ligt. And, you know, when you look through the rest of the players, I think we would all agree that the only standout player from the last decade, I know there's been people like Cavani and Ibrahimovic, but we already knew that they were good players. They weren't really scouted, were they? Everybody knows who Ibrahimovic is. Everybody knew who Ronaldo was when he came back. Like, they weren't really scouted. It was just, oh, Cavani's available on a free, let's sign him. That's not really scouting, is it? Scouting is identifying players who are in a lesser league and are waiting to move to a big club, like a Bruno did, like a Dallo did, like Lenny Yoro did, like etc. So yeah, I have no problem with cutting the scouting department, to be honest. They'll all go and find jobs somewhere else. They'll be fine. But again, let me know what you think. I'm gonna have a look at some of the comments really, really quickly. Let's see what people are saying. Ant says that they cancelled the kids' party as well. Yeah, I did see that. All right, let's just crack on with all of these things and then we can talk about it at the end. So the next thing we've got for you is about Sir Alex Ferguson's ambassador role. So that's ended. He was earning £2.16 million per season. Now, I don't really know what his ambassador role involves. He still comes to all the games. I don't know. I don't know what exactly he was having to do for that, so I can't really comment. Maybe Sir Alex wanted to retire. Like, I don't know. I don't know enough about this one to really comment. He's 83 years of age. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, the headline is awful, isn't it? The headline is, this is a disgrace. Why are they getting rid of Sir Alex? But we don't know the full ins and outs of it, do we? So, I don't know. 2.16 million a season. That's crazy, isn't it? They also cut pay for other ambassadors, including Brian Robson, Dennis Irwin, and Andy Cole. Again, I'm not sure exactly what they were having to do for that money. I don't know. So, yeah. And then the further we go down the list, it just gets pretty petty. So they're not doing any lunch for matchday staff. And I think that's more like stewards. I think that's more like people who are working at Old Trafford versus like the team. Obviously, the team will get lunch before they play. Otherwise, they won't be able to perform. But again, you can see why they're doing this, right? So you say lunch boxes. It says lunch boxes scrapped for matchday staff. But as I said to you at the beginning of the video, when we talked about the stewards, the matchday staff are no longer Manchester United's employees. They are agency workers. So they're just changing how they do it, you know? Whereas before, all of the staff were people who'd worked at Old Trafford for 30, 40 years. They would all get their lunch for free. They'd get probably tickets to the games for free. They were probably getting loads of things for free. Whereas now, they've just got some faceless agency who do all of the work for Old Trafford, who has no association with Manchester United. They come in, they probably get paid by the hour. They don't get any holiday pay. They don't get sick pay. They don't get free food, and they leave, you know? So it's just a change of structure. But obviously, when it's a football club, if this was like, I don't know, O2 Academy or a music venue or what else? I don't know, like a corporate event space or something like that, I don't think people would care. But because it's Manchester United, it has identity, it has history, you know, I think that's why people are so upset about this. But that's that one. The next big one, I think, which is a really, really big one, is the ticket price change and scrapping concessions for child tickets. I think that one's absolutely unarguable. That apparently will only save them about £90,000 a season, which I just think is terrible, you know? to make it so a child's ticket is now £66. It's just not good. And all it effectively means is that they're pushing tourists towards Manchester United, really, opposed to actually, you know, a Manchester United fan saying, I would love to take my 2 children to Old Trafford. That will cost you £200 just for the tickets, let alone food, travel, hotel if you need to stay. It could be, you know, a £300 to £500 day out to go and watch Manchester United with your 2 kids. And the thing that they're really missing out on here is they're missing the next generation of football fans supporting Manchester United. Because imagine you're a young child, right? And you are asking your parent, I really want to go to a football game. And the parent's a Man United fan. The parent's probably going to say, well, I'd love to take you to Man United, but it's going to cost me like £300-400 total. And I don't have that money. So what will then happen is that football fan will probably just say, that child will probably say, oh, well, let's go to a different game then. And then, you know, it's that simple. And that's where supporting a team can stem from. A child gets taken to watch a team at a young age, and the next thing you know, they support them. And I think that they're massively missing out here, because the amount of money that me or you put into this club over our lifetime, from going to games, buying the shirts, you know, buying the membership thing, all of these things that they offer and they monetize. If you're losing these young fans and they decide to go and support somebody else, then the amount of money you'll save by putting the ticket price up by £16 is not going to level out. So, yeah, that's that one. But yeah, those are all the things that have happened in the last year. Let's read through a few of your comments. Ant says the stewards is a massive problem. They don't know what they're doing, and Old Trafford is now less safe because of it. Yeah, I do agree. I've seen a lot of people saying that apparently it's just really unsafe. Somebody in the chat saying that apparently matchday tickets have just gone back down. You know why that is, don't you? They haven't gone back down. It's because they're not selling. The amount of emails I get from Manchester United at the moment saying to come to the games, do you want to buy tickets, is actually mental. I remember 2 years ago, 1 year ago, literally, before the season even started, every single game was sold out, and it was impossible to get tickets. You'd have to buy them off resellers on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, right? Now, I can see somebody in the chat saying it. Say you want to go to even Ipswich Town tonight, right? Tomorrow Ipswich Town is. You can still get tickets for the Ipswich Town game, and they're £50. There's loads. There's literally hundreds of tickets left for a game tomorrow night. And I know it's a Wednesday night fixture, which makes it a bit more difficult, say. But, all right, let's have a look at Fulham on the weekend, right? I'm not even joking here. I've got you can see the stadium, and it shows you all the space. There is honestly like half of the stadium has got seats in it for £50. And, wow, you can go as an under 16 for the game on Saturday for £25. That shows how bad it is. I mean, let's have a look at Arsenal. Can you get tickets for Arsenal? I've never seen this before in my life. You can get tickets for Arsenal, Premier League game. There is literally, I could literally buy a ticket right now for the Arsenal game. I'm telling you, right? That is unheard of. As I said before, it just doesn't happen. That's mad. That is honestly mad. And that just shows how many people are like, I'm not going anymore. There's like seats for the Arsenal game that are pretty much pitch side. And that's next weekend. These ones are the £66 one. Yeah, it's not great, is it? But yeah, I do hope you have enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different to normal. I've kind of just outlined all the things that you know, the INEOS have done in their first 12 months. Really interested to know what you guys all think. Let me know. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Daily Red Devil. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you all on the next one. Bye for now. Oh, God.